After last time, I kind of lost a lot of my wonder. Before we get to today's video, I want to take a moment to talk about Patreon. That's right, we are on Patreon now, and we have a bunch of tiers with a bunch of great rewards. You can subscribe and get things like early access to all reactions, depending on your tier, depends on which reactions you get early access to. You can vote on polls exclusive to patrons that will help determine future reaction series and more. You will get to just have various choices in terms of like getting to choose future reactions I react to, getting to choose first impressions I check out, all kinds of different rewards, and possibly more coming in the future. We're still new at this. We're still figuring things out. It's a process. It's a process. But we have multiple tiers, so whatever you would be able to donate, if you're able and willing to donate, is appreciated. It helps me out, it helps the channel out, it helps us grow. It's going to help just, standardly. It's just something new to check out. Plus, if you like getting the reactions early, that's also a plus. But it is optional. If you're unable to do it, that's completely fine. All reactions will come to YouTube just a little bit later, a week later or so. So, that all being said, thank you as always so much, and let's get on with today's video. And with that being said, hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episode 7, I believe. Yeah, episode 7 of the Darwin incident. And I'm a little mixed right now. Because last episode was, really good. Really good. It was extremely well made. But that's kind of also the problem. Because it was so well done that it was hard to watch. It was almost traumatizing. Last week's episode focused on a school shooting. And it was perpetuated by a kid who was on the side of the ALA. And he was willing to campaign for animal rights and, have this on-campus demonstration for the school. But he never went too far until the leader of the ALA actually got in contact with him and basically coerced him into violence. He talked to him and, through an example, brought him to this diner that was run by, a racist. And because the leader himself is black, he clearly, I still say he did this on purpose, specifically to radicalize this young man. And he did this to show what he perceives as a justified act of violence against this man. Because of the extreme racism and everything, later that night, they kidnap the man, and he convinces the boy to kill him. This has nothing to do with their cause, by the way. This is not related to the ALA's mission statement of, animal rights. It's completely unrelated, and it's completely demented. But the boy does end up becoming radicalized, and this, along with, weaponry and stuff given by the ALA, he goes into the school the next day and starts mass murdering a bunch of the students there. It is, without hyperbole, one of the most upsetting acts of violence I've seen in mostly anything I've reacted to. There's some exceptions, of course. There's some movies that I've watched that are, very upsetting because of their subject matter and are meant to be as such and ended up actually becoming banned movies because of it. Such as Salo, as an example. Cannibal Holocaust wasn't as bad as a lot of people said, but like stuff like that. I've reacted to movies like that ended up being like really fucked. Um, and so I think those are still worse overall. But as I said last time, the reason why this was so upsetting to me is because of how real it was. Because of how just actively authentic this portrayal was. And the shooting itself was so frighteningly like believable and real that it was scary. It genuinely scared me to the point where I wasn't okay after watching it. I just wasn't. And so I think I think it's one of those cases where it was harrowing and disturbing, but it was done so well that it becomes as such. And I feel like that's praise on the show, on the writing, the direction, etc., and the original manga that this is based off of. Because that shows that like they wanted to make this as authentic and as real as possible for the sake of disturbing people. Like that is the intent. It's supposed to like be a wake-up call. Everything in this series pretty much is. Again, I think I talked about this before, but it's kind of funny that this series seems on the surface like if you haven't heard of it or watched it and you just saw like, I don't know, the trailer or the opening, you think, "Oh, this is silly. This is kind of silly. This dude's like half human, half chimpanzee. What's up with that?" But then you actually watch it and it's like, "Oh, this is an extremely serious dramatic show. This is not a comedy. It's not lighthearted. It's very intensely serious." So yeah. Um that's just a little funny to me. But either way, I wouldn't say I'm excited to see what happens next, but we should continue on and find out. So, let's check this episode out and see what we have in store. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. Welcome to the Afterthoughts. We'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. I don't know the numbers on this kind of thing because I try not to look this kind of stuff up because it depresses me and I have very bad mental health issues as it is. But I'm wondering, like, there's a side of me that's morbidly curious how the numbers of like what was it 41 dead stack up to real life American school shootings like Columbine. And like I kind of wonder if this is like more deadly and more like it has more casualties than other school shooting. I just there's a morbid curiosity, but I'm also not going to look it up right now or hopefully ever because I also don't want to know that because I feel like if I find out that Columbine or some other like school shooting that's happened here in America has had more casualties, it's just gonna send me into a downward spiral. Um, this episode was not as harrowing as the last, though like it still did bother me, and I just Lucy's acting strong and okay, but is she really okay? Like the two she was hiding with, that guy ran out and got killed. The girl, like she was still with, got killed right in front of her. She had a gun to her head. Like, I wouldn't be okay. I would never be okay again. I'm barely okay just having watched this. And we're supposed to believe she's just like fine after that. She's just like, back to normal, video chatting with Charlie. It's like she's just I know she's strong. I know she's like very very well put together. And like even in the midst of all of that, she was being super brave and like trying to talk Gare down and everything, but it's just it's just there's got to be some trauma there and even for the bravest, even for the most well put together, there would still be trauma there, I feel. I'm glad that the cops are seeing that Charlie was saving people here and that they let him go because he's actively been proving to like be a good person and value other lives and everything. He's not like as inhuman as they made him out to be. And that's a massive point of this, of course. Charlie being, half human, half chimpanzee causes a lot of people to view him as a thing. And legally, we know he is viewed as such. But we see that he has humanity, that he does care. And outside of like just, trying to help save lives as much as he could here, you can also see that when he's outside and he sees Lucy's mom, like yelling that her daughter's not out here, and you see how fast he moves. Like that was insane. Like that was instant transmission levels of speed. He moved so fucking fast because he was scared. And although he doesn't emote like super well, he's not like the most emotive, most emotional in terms of his vocal inflections and whatnot. When he found Lucy alive, like even though it was in the same monotone voice that he always speaks in, when he said, "I'm glad you're not dead," it's like, how much he genuinely did mean it. Because visually, we saw how fast he moved to go find her, because he was scared for her. And it shows that he cares. Because that's how he was raised. His parents raised him to care. And all of this was planned out. There was even a recording, and Gare was going to kill himself, and it's just he couldn't do it. And Charlie even saved him from being shot by the police. It's just there's so much to this episode that's just like, Jesus fuck. But then you also have to account for the aftermath. And I'm glad that we got that in this episode. We see that Lucy is being like stuck at home most of the time now. Charlie has to remain at home, not even in the woods outside his home. He has to remain at the house. And he didn't even do anything wrong, but because Gare called him out specifically, and because, like, everyone knows the ALA is after him, it's like it's for his own protection, but also they feel like if Charlie's at the house, then other people might not be put in danger just by proximity. And you kind of understand, but at the same time, it's like Charlie shouldn't have to be punished for something he didn't do. But now we see at the end, the entire town is like coming out, or at least some of the people in it representing them, and telling Hannah and Bert that they have to leave. That it's the town's decision. And you can't blame them. Like 41 people just died in a school shooting. Who knows how many were also just severely injured from being shot. And these are, again, our kids. It's like, Jesus fuck. You can't blame them. Some of the people there might have lost someone. A son, a daughter, a nephew, a niece. Just a child in general. They might have lost someone. You can't blame them. Because a lot of people, especially right now, are going to conflate Charlie with the ALA, which is what the ALA wants. Rivera, or whatever the fuck his name is, the leader, this is what he wanted. He's talking about, like, phase 1 is over, now we move on to phase 2, which is also terrifying for a number of reasons. But it's like this was all in his plans, except for Gare living. That was the only thing that surprised him. But he acknowledged that was the human side of Charlie. And so the fact also that for this supposed cause, he was willing to not only radicalize this kid into committing a school shooting, but also into, killing himself or being killed by the police at the end. Like, he literally set this kid up to die, and the kid was radicalized to a degree to where he not only didn't mind, he was okay for it. And it's just... And to a degree, I do feel bad for Gare, because he had a genuine desire to help the animals, unlike Rivera. He actually wanted to do good. But he was, again, radicalized into becoming this school shooter and taking all these lives. He talks about how when he was a kid, he saw the pig and everything with his family while out on a picnic, and how it stuck with him, and he's had these voices in his head ever since. And it could be a mental illness thing. It could just be like, hyperfixating on a moment that, like, fucked him up as a kid for one reason or another. But the fact of the matter is, what he had been doing prior wasn't, like, entirely bad. Campaigning for animal rights and stuff is not a bad thing. It's all about how you handle it, and this wasn't it. And he even acknowledges that he probably wasn't in the right. But then it's like also saying that, like, the voices were gone and everything because of Charlie and his role in all of this. It's just like, this kid needs serious help. And so I'm glad that he was, saved in the end. I'm glad that Charlie kept him from being killed. If Gare can get serious help, emotional and mental help, like I think he can be de-radicalized. And I just don't feel like he's too far gone. And there's a side of me that it's like there's a side I feel to most people that would be like, oh, he killed 41 people and injured however many more. It's like him like dying at that moment wouldn't have been like bad or wouldn't have been, you know, unreasonable because of all the lives he's taken. It's like you can't really justify the idea of like him deserving to live anymore. But I think that's the point. He didn't deserve to live. He absolutely deserved to die in that moment. But Charlie chose otherwise. Charlie chose, in spite of everything that Gare did, to give him another chance because he understood that Gare was radicalized by the ALA. He understood that Gare would have never done this otherwise because he's interacted with Gare. And Charlie is exceptionally smart and would be able to key in on that. And he understood that there was still time to save Gare. Now, Gare should absolutely be imprisoned, probably for life. Because again, he still took 41 lives. That's just undeniable. That can't be taken back. But remember, he's a kid himself. And kids at that age are still very susceptible to manipulation. And I think most people can understand that he was manipulated by the ALA. So giving him another chance to like get help, given all the circumstances, I think was a good decision on Charlie's part. But if he had died, I would not have shed a tear. I would not have been like disappointed or too upset because again, it would have been justified. And it makes it a very complex, deeply like interesting narrative to to think about all of this, to think about both sides to this argument. Because normally it's like it's a one and done kind of situation. It's like there's only one side when it comes to this kind of shit. But it's like it's a lot more complicated when it comes to a student doing something like this. And you always have to ask why. And he even brings that stuff up. He's like, "Oh, you're probably going to look at my mental health and access to guns and stuff or whatever he said exactly." And it's like yeah, it's a valid thing. Because people want to understand why a kid, what, 16, 17 years old would do something like this. What would drive them to do it? And I don't know if there is any kind of like mental illness issues. I don't know. It never really goes into that, but all we know is we know that he was radicalized by Rivera by the killing of that racist diner owner. We know what led to this, but it's a case of we don't know if there was something underlying besides just, what happened in his past. again, I've been talking about it, but this series gets very serious and very real, and it tries to have tiny little moments of levity in there, like here and there, like Lucy's spit take when Charlie says he's gonna go after and like stop the ALA for good. Like the spit take is obviously a moment of levity, a moment of like comedic effect. But even her reaction to like what she's reacting to with that is serious. Charlie's talking about going after them to stop them, but she argues against that because she's so scared of losing him. She doesn't want him to put himself in any unnecessary danger. It's just it's still a very serious scene, even with the spit take. And there have been shows that have been hard to watch for me that have been very serious and talked about very serious topics. The one I always kind of think about and go back to is Doom Patrol, that I actually had to drop from reactions because it was like sending my mental health in a downward spiral at a really rapid rate to the point where it was actually becoming a genuine issue. Um, but I don't know what it is about this, and it's not to say this is better or worse than Doom Patrol in terms of its like portrayal of these sensitive, intense subjects. But I don't know what it is. This isn't bothering me as much as Doom Patrol did on a personal mental health level. Instead, this is bothering me more on a societal level, on more of a ideological level, which actually ramps me up to want to watch more because it's like this is stuff that weirdly enough like makes me want to think, makes me want to fight against this kind of terroristic action, against these kind of extremist ideals, and for good causes still. And it's very often that a lot of these good causes are unfortunately fought in extremist ways. And this can happen to any cause. There are extremists in every single cause you can think of. The fights for queer rights, for women's rights, for the rights of people of color, for the rights of workers, like animal rights. There's extremists everywhere. And they are always giving a bad name to these rights groups. And their detractors will always like use these extremists as fuel to fight against these groups and to like paint them as either negative or insane or whatever else. They'll act like these extremists are like the the standard, like they're what everyone is like. And that's just not the case. That's just not how it is. But they use that and they, gaslight people into thinking that. It's like you have one trans person who commits an act of terror and suddenly all trans people are the enemies or so on and so forth. You have one person of color who does something bad and suddenly it's a problem with the black community. It's fucking terrible. But these asshats out there utilize this kind of thing to fuel their racism, their homophobia, their transphobia, their bigotry in general. And it's just it bothers me. And again, weirdly enough, this series makes me want to fight for rights and fight for, good causes more, but in a very, healthy, good way. It doesn't make me want to become an extremist. Literally the opposite. It shows how bad those kind of actions are and how it doesn't help your cause and just makes you a raging fucking psychopath. But it also shows that these causes are worthy of being fought for. The way Gare was originally handling things, how Charlie's family is vegan and believes in animal rights, how Lucy is even like on that kind of side. All this kind of stuff is indicative of the problem being the radicalization and extremism, not the cause itself. And I think that's what I like the most about this show. That it's not trying to tell its audience that veganism or animal rights activism is bad. Literally the opposite. It's trying to say that stuff is good. As long as you don't, take it to the most extreme terroristic levels. People like the ALA give these kinds of causes bad names. But because of sensationalist media, it's all anyone ever focuses on. It's all anyone ever hears about. So the random everyday people out there are only going to think about that. And it fucking sucks. So I just want to say that that this episode was like also really well done. And I'm really invested in this series. And depending on where it continues to go, I'll just say it, this could easily become one of my all-time favorites. Like, not just of anime, but of series in general. Because, which is odd, because usually, again, a lot of these super serious shows that touch on this kind of stuff can bum me out big time, but this is, like, so investing. And I'm, like really, really into it. But tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode? Let me know your thoughts below. And let me know, like, how this kind of, like, ideology speaks to you. And what you think about, like, the ideologies that are presented in this series when not used under the mask of extremism. What do you think of veganism, of animal rights? Let me know your thoughts on all of that and more down below. For now, though, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.